Alright, hello citizens of the Nigelverse, it's Niger once again, and welcome back to System Shock Radio. Episode 145. So I got an interesting topic to talk to you guys about today, but first, I was making this announcement because I forgot to make it, and now it's 11th episode 100. That dropped yesterday. It was supposed to drop on Thursday, but we ran into some last minute issues. So instead, it released yesterday. So instead, Thursday, we got my review of Triple H vs. The Undertaker at WrestleMania 28 instead, and then obviously Tales from the 11th episode 100 came out yesterday. So go check both those out if you missed them, or if you missed those. But at the announcement that I forgot to make yesterday because I was so caught up and so excited for episode 100 that the announcement kind of slipped away from me, but I'll make it here. The next 5 episodes of Not Successful Labyrinth, episodes 101 through 105, we are going to be reading Hamlet. So we're going to be continuing our reading series here on the channel, and next time we're kind of continuing with the Shakespeare tradition for a while. Not every reading series is gonna be Shakespeare, but we're continuing the tradition for now, the Shakespeare tradition for now with Hamlet. So if you remember previously, we read Romeo and Juliet and then Macbeth, so we're going to be continuing with Hamlet, so we're going to be reading that for the next few episodes. But nevertheless, as for what I wanted to talk about today, there's a question floating around that's been in a lot of people's minds, and admittedly, this has been something that's been kind of being asked for a while, something I think I even alluded to for a little bit, but now we're going to full on address it and try our best to answer it, and that is this, what we're seeing now, the greatest era in pro wrestling history? Are we seeing the best time period in pro wrestling history? So real quick before we seek to really dive into answering that question, first we gotta take it back a little bit to the 80s and 90s. So of course, WWE had the golden era. Of course, that was with guys such as Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior and stuff. That Rock and Wrestling connection, which helped beget the first WrestleMania. And of course, this is when WCW was still part of the NWA. Although, of course, the NWA being the National Wrestling Alliance, and before they ultimately split as well. But then we moved from the golden era to the new generation era. And the thing about the new generation era in WWE is that it kind of sucked. Not only was business down, and this wasn't an exclusive WWE thing, but this was also felt in WCW as well. Just business within the business was definitely down all across the board, or not just from a financial standpoint, but from a creative standpoint, because it felt like creatively both companies were in kind of a rut, trying whatever they could to really right the ship, but nothing really seemed to work, unfortunately. But then we got into the next big wrestling boom, that being around the time of not just WCW unveiling Monday Nitro and as well as the NWO, but then WWE countering that with the Attitude Era, and that sparked a lot more interest in not just WWE but also WCW and pro wrestling in general, and that era is considered to be the best because of what it did for the business, really turning the ship around, embracing more of that greediness and really making wrestling interesting. And then from there, things kind of took a bit of a downturn, if you will. Of course, WCW and ECW were bought out. That is. And then we got not just in WWE, we got not just the Ruthless Aggression era, but then the PG era, the PG era wasn't the best, but it's a lot better than the New Generation era. If you think the PG era was bad, if you thought we were in the trenches then, please, by all means, go back and watch some of the stuff in the new generation, like with one or two exceptions, and those are what you call trenches, my friend. But with wrestling not being as big as it was kind of like that for a little while. But then something happened, and wrestling became cool again, and not sure if it's just like some of this is backed by facts, some of this is just speculation, but I'm not sure if it's Triple H finally fulfilling the prophecy and taking over WWE or AEW, who's or AEW becoming a thing, and essentially bringing bringing another wrestling company to the mainstream besides WWE for the first time in a long time. But now wrestling is booming again, and business is definitely up in the wrestling world. People are talking about pro wrestling and everything again, and so that's why I ask: is this perhaps the greatest era in pro wrestling? And the answer is possibly. From a business standpoint, it's arguably so. Business, like I said, business is up within pro wrestling. WWE's doing well. AEW's doing not as well as they were, but hopefully they'll get back to that. TNA is back to being TNA, and you have other smaller promotions who are doing their thing as well, and of course there's New Japan being New Japan. And things are looking really solid. At WWE, they're selling out arenas. This SmackDown they had last night, I believe, was the 6th sellout SmackDown in a row. Either that, or I might be thinking of next week. But at WWE, he doing all kinds of business, setting all kinds of records within and when it comes to sales and buys and everything. People being interested in the product. The product feels refreshing. People are into the product for the first time in a long time. Vince McMahon is out, and Triple H is in, and this is kind of what you get because of that. It wasn't without its bumps and its hiccups because of the aforementioned Mr. McMahon, but things are definitely up. Meanwhile, AEW, some people are trying to say AEW is on a downturn, but they're still doing really great business. They just had a really awesome pay-per-view with a very solid amount of buys, like a very good amount of buys in Revolution. And Kazuchika Okada just made his debut on Wednesday. He's heel and he joined the Elite. Mercedes Moné may be on her way. They just got Will Ospreay. Well, technically they've had Ospreay for a little bit, but he officially signed and everything, made his debut as an AEW wrestler at Revolution. But AEW is doing really well. TNA is back to being TNA. They're no longer Impact Wrestling. Scott D'Amore is out, and that has caused some contention. But otherwise, we'll see what's happening with TNA. New Japan, I'm saying New Japan is kind of on the downward slope, but hopefully the ship is righted now that Hiroshi Tanahashi, aka one of the people instrumental for saving New Japan, is now the president. So we'll see what he does with them, and of course the aforementioned smaller companies. So with all of that, it seems like eyes are definitely on the wrestling business, and that's a good thing. No matter who you're a fan of, if you like WWE, if you like AEW, if you like TNA, if you like New Japan, if you like any of the smaller promotion, and whatever you like there's something for everyone. And this time around, it truly feels like there is something for everyone, and all the big moves being made. It's some of that crossover appeal as well, such as has now with Logan Paul now being in WWE, and WWE having the sponsorship with Prime, where they're going to be on the ring canvas, which I get it, but at the same time, does it have to be there the whole night? Nothing against Prime. I've tried Prime before. It's okay, but does it have to be on the ring mat the entire night? But with that, and of course the sponsorships and everything, and with now TKO Holdings, now WWE's having a Netflix deal. Things are up. Meanwhile, AEW, who they're still signing free agents, and some people are getting into AEW again, and the storylines are looks like they're getting better, progressing for the better. AEW, who are coming back to Wembley. The last show did really well hell, even in with the attendance discrepancy, AEW is going back to Wembley next year, and by next year I technically mean this year, but AEW is going back. They got a new event coming up, Dynasty. So things are up. Things are on the up and up when it comes to the wrestling business. And I think that's why a lot of people say this might be the greatest era ever, because for years it really felt like kind of the same. Like you still had your or indie promotions such as like Ring of Honor and MLW, GCW, stuff like that. But then WWE was like the top of the wrestling food chain, and at least by name alone, because people weren't really interested in the product. Like there were some diamonds in the rough, such as everything NXT is doing, which NXT is doing really well. Hell now, but people, aside from like some of the stuff they did in NXT, and even towards like the tail end, even not even before 2.0, but kind of towards the tail end of like the black and gold era, things kind of the wheels kind of fell off a tad bit, but because of things like that, it really felt like the wrestling business wasn't as big as it was. I was like, hey, we were long removed from that. Long before we were long removed from the days of like the Attitude Era or the Monday Night Wars, but now with so many sellouts from WWE, with so much business really being run by WWE, and of course WWE is not alone in that. I've mentioned AEW and their endeavors, what they're getting up to and stuff, but especially with the endeavors from WWE, and them selling so much and being able to turn such a profit, it really feels like wrestling is back. A lot of people are saying wrestling's back, not just off TV and like the ticket numbers and sales and stuff like that, but on screen as well. With one or two exceptions, people are into the product. People are talking about it. People are genuinely interested in what's going on. And that might seem like, hey, you might be like, Nigel, that's the whole goal, is for people to be entertained, and it's for people to be into the product. Why is that an accomplishment? Because it wasn't like that for a bit. It like there was a lot of people who you'll see like across in YouTube comments and social media, a lot of people are like, hey, I wasn't really into wrestling for a while. I was a fan of wrestling. I wasn't into wrestling for a little bit, but then WWE, what they're doing now, they brought me back and everything, and I was brought back in. I'm interested in wrestling again, and that is fantastic. That is theoretically what you want, but that wasn't what we were getting. But now it seems like we're getting it again, and business is definitely up. A lot of people are making that comparison to the Attitude Era. Some say, like, some go as far as to say, if you're only saying that this isn't the best era because of the Attitude Era, then you're being biased towards that, which I mean, trust me, the Attitude Era is definitely hard to top, but yeah, it seems like wrestling might truly be back. And have we had some hiccups? Yeah, across us all promotions. Like no promotion is without fault, of course. And at least when it comes to wrestling, obviously at WWE they had what happened with Vince McMahon, and now it looks like more's coming out of it, especially in regards to Ashley Massaro. AEW, they seem to be taking quite a few L's back to back, but yeah, otherwise things seem to be on the up, and you got certain names coming back that are bringing people back to the fold, like The Rock's back into the fold, CM Punk is back in WWE, all this stuff, all this fantastic stuff I think goes to show that wrestling truly is back. So, I answered the question: is this the greatest era in pro wrestling in history? It may still be debatable, but so far, science pointing out to at least measuring up to the scale of the Attitude Era, which is why this era of wrestling, while it doesn't quite have a name, what some people have dubbed it, and I think is like a fair dubbing of it. It is called the Renaissance era, because this truly does feel like a renaissance. Of course, Renaissance meaning like rebirth and everything. This truly does feel like a rebirth, with so many eyes on the product again, the product feeling cool again, and wrestling feeling fun again. It's not just something that I enjoy kind of in a bubble. Now I talk with other people, and other people enjoy it, which I do, of course, enjoy talking about wrestling. And even people who aren't really into wrestling, like getting them into it and everything is kind of cool until you show them the bad stuff. But yeah, now the question is, what do you guys think? Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and share with your friends. Turn on post notifications so you know every time I upload a video, so you can see as soon as it drops. And let me know in the comments below your thoughts on what we talked about in this episode of System Shock Radio. And do you think wrestling is back? Heck, are you a wrestling fan? Are you not a wrestling fan? And is this perhaps the greatest era in pro wrestling? Do you agree or disagree with that statement? And excuse me. And where do you think the wrestling business goes from here? So far, it looks like things are only gonna go up. And hopefully they do stay that way. Because as you know, wrestling's cool again, and that's cool with me. Like, as someone who's a fan of wrestling, seeing wrestling being cool again, seeing wrestling being talked about again, like, you can kind of tell it is something that definitely excites me, and definitely something that makes me happy. Whether you're a fan, again, whichever fan you're a promotion of, and just a word of advice, people, you can be a fan of multiple promotions. You don't just have to be a fan of one. And I'm not necessarily talking to like the average, ordinary, everyday wrestling fan, and you and me, but more so the extremists, and you know who you are, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys later. Peace. And also, real quick before I go, I am going to be going back to posting on my social medias. I've said it multiple times. I'm gonna go back and do it. I promise. I definitely will. In fact, I'm planning on doing it this week. So expect to see me back on social media. So follow me there, at least in terms of my personal page, not personal page, but the Nigelverse pages. So I do have an Instagram, a Twitter, and a Facebook page. So those are linked to the description. So go follow those, like those what you do, not just for updates, but just to hang out with me and stuff. And I'm gonna try to interact with you guys more on there and stuff like that. And as well as on Twitch. I haven't been on Twitch. I think it's been a year since I've been on Twitch. So I'm gonna be making my grand return at some point, or maybe not so grand return. We'll see. But nevertheless, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys later. Peace.